Hey, thanks for tuning into the Land and Home Show. Today we're talking a little bit about the things you need to think about when buying land here in Kentucky. This is not a super convenient truth for a lot of people to hear, but the truth is the truth. The facts are the facts. There's nothing political or really all that subjective about it. It's just the laws of economics, certainly the laws of economics within real estate. I'm Stephen J.B. Davis, your land specialist and residential realtor here in Central Kentucky and beyond. I want to preface the land value videos that I have coming up with some general rules and expectations and things that you ought to know if you're wanting to buy land here. And so I'll be talking in some generalities really around the most common configuration of land that people are looking for when people are referred to me, when they watch my YouTube videos, when I meet them out over a pour of bourbon. There are some general patterns, and everyone won't fit into this pattern, but I'm kind of going to the most common denominator here in this video because it's what appeals to most people, both anecdotally and statistically in terms of who I deal with and ultimately who other agents ask me about. So three overarching desires that most people have are they want to build someday, if not immediately someday. They want to not be totally isolated in the middle of nowhere, so to speak. I feel like that often has a negative connotation, and I don't mean it that way. And then last but not least, they generally want something as little as 5 acres or as many as 20. And when we think of those three ideas, there are some realities about what you want and getting to the actual closing table with that dream property that you should know before you buy. So starting with building, when you want to build here in Kentucky, I actually have another video that breaks Kentucky down into our three main regions: Western Kentucky, Central Kentucky, and Eastern Kentucky. So I'm not going to get super deep into it, but I will say, if you're wanting to build, you're most likely going to be in Central Kentucky and maybe Western Kentucky. Eastern Kentucky is super mountainous. There's objectively not that much going on there. There's a little bit of enterprise and business, but in general, there is a reason why a lot of the counties out there are decreasing in population as opposed to increasing population. There's not a whole lot of activity on many levels in Eastern Kentucky, and the land is rather cost prohibitive and physically prohibitive in making it such that you can build pretty easily and certainly build inexpensively. So if you want to build a house, which is most people when they ask me about land, they want to build eventually, whether it's a cabin or a house or whatever, you're probably going to be in Central Kentucky or Western Kentucky. Second, being conveniently located. Usually what that means for people is they don't want to be 2 hours away from something. Maybe 2 hours away from the airport might be fine if they don't travel by plane very often, but most of the time they want to be within an hour to some other town. Certainly want to be closer to hospitals. Sometimes schools are a concern, and it is generally true that when you live in a very rural state, a lot of the opportunities and resources that schools have typically revolve around the higher populated areas. So people want to be close to cities and towns for a multitude of reasons, and that usually means that you want to be like an hour or less. 5 to 20 acres. Everybody wants 5 to 20 acres. 5 is certainly manageable. 20 seems to be like what a lot of people feel is big enough. Anything larger than that would be too much. And that's just how the cookie crumbles. And so when you put all of these things together, where in Kentucky you are, where you are in relationship to conveniences and needs for school, health, job, etc. And when you start talking about 5 to 20 acres, your expectation needs to be that you're going to spend more money. There's no way to get around that. If we start with the friendliness of the land, meaning if it's flat, if it's mountainous, when land is easy to build on, there's a premium for that. So Central Kentucky, Western Kentucky, you're generally going to find places that are easy to build on. You don't have to blow up the top of a mountain to get it flat, or sidewind your way up to a mountain top so that you can stick your house up there, or run utility pipes and lines so that you can have electricity and water really far away from where the road is. So that's going to carry a cost, being in a place that makes the land a lot more easy to develop. When you talk about not being isolated, we're talking about being close to places such as Lexington, or a place like Louisville, or when you get out west, Owensboro, Paducah, to probably an equal extent, Bowling Green. Bowling Green is kind of like on the border of western and central Kentucky. Anyway, that's a whole cultural thing. But, you know, you're talking about being closer to cities, and the closer you are to cities, the higher of a premium you're going to pay. And all of those cities that I just named have things going on with tourism, with being college towns, with having differing degrees of industries, such as like battery creation for like electric vehicles, bourbon, horses. All these different things play into these urban centers and how the land around them is then valued. Sometimes the land is higher value because like in Owensboro, and Bowling Green, for instance, they're really expanding in a big industrial way. There's not a lot of horse money or a lot of reasons why people go there for horses the way they do in Lexington or Jefferson County, but when you're talking about expanding big factories and car plants and battery plants and things like that, solar plants, that land is really expensive. And then if you work there, or you're someone who's employed by one of these industries, being able to get to work easy, you know, there's a premium for that. So when you are closer to these cities, when you're talking about being an hour away, it seems like a long time depending on what kind of state you're coming from, and maybe you're used to getting someplace in 10 minutes or 20 minutes, but an hour away still carries quite the premium. And that premium is going to vary from city to city, but when you're close to a place that has all the stuff that everybody wants, you know, we've talked about the hospitals, the shopping, all of those things, there is going to be a higher cost for that. Last but not least, the acreage size. One thing to understand about acreage is when we're talking about this 5 to 20 acre range, it is in very high demand. When you have something in high demand, and something that there's not a whole lot of supply of, the price goes up. Your price per acre for this acreage range is always going to carry a premium. You're always going to pay more per acre than if it was larger. Just like if you buy one chicken breast versus a pack of 18 chicken breasts, the price per breast goes down the more breasts you buy. The price per acre goes down the more acreage you buy. And when you're talking about being again, you've got flatter land that's easy to build on. It's relatively close to a city and, you know, human wants and needs in the 21st century. And then you stick in the part where everybody that wants land is typically vying for this 5 to 20 acre situation. You're going to get a higher price. This is not a super convenient truth for a lot of people to hear, but, you know, the truth is the truth. The facts are the facts. There's nothing political or really all that subjective about it. It's just the laws of economics, and certainly the laws of economics within real estate. So when you're looking for your 5 to 20 acres, just know that you're in pretty steep competition with everybody else who wants land. Most people are not buying land in order to start a giant farming operation on 500 acres or 2,000 acres. Most people that are buying land, certainly here in Kentucky, they're looking for a homestead-ish type of setting. Whether they will homestead or not is beside the point, but that 5 to 20 acres is the most highly demanded type of range. And then on top of that, what you have to realize is if you are looking for unrestricted land, which is often how this 5 to 20 acres works, I don't want anybody to tell me what I can and can't do. Fine. The closer you get to cities, the more zoning you may have to contend with, number one. Number two, as time has gone on, as more people have wanted to have a country life, a country type of living, a quieter type of setting, these rural subdivisions have popped up where, yes, you can find your 7 acres of undeveloped land that's meant to be built on. A lot of times they've even done some development of the land to make it easier to connect to utilities. Again, that's more costs that you have to pay for those types of conveniences, but they exist. However, they exist with restrictions because they're within a community. A lot of times when things are subdivided off of larger pieces of land, the people who sell those, they sell them with the understanding that 20, 50, 100 years from now, that land is relatively going to look the same. It's not going to have a mobile home community on it. It won't be used as a landfill. It won't be used as a place just for people to dump their trash. And these are things that happen, you know, when you are talking about rural settings and the way that people decide to handle living and some of the things that the waste that comes from living. And so when you have these rural subdivisions on these smaller pieces of land, they come with some HOAs. They come with some sort of deed covenants and restrictions. It looks different everywhere, but you're more likely to run into it if you do indeed find that smaller amount of acreage to begin with. Which leads me to the last point. When you're looking at these smaller acreage ranges, I would say anything under 10 acres within the 5 to 20, it is more likely that you're going to find an older home on that property than you are to find a blank 5 to 10 acres. Back 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, when people would subdivide parts of their farms off, their working farms, we're talking about real farms, not just blank land. People use that word too glibly. When people were separating land from their working farms for their mom or their elderly uncle or whatever the case may be, there weren't a whole lot of deed restrictions. It was land that was staying in the family. It was, we just want to be able to keep mom close. We want to be able to keep grandma close, but have the working farm on these 300 acres stay working. So you'll often find 6 or 7 acres or 8 acres or 4 acres that has a home from 1950, 1980, the early 2000s, because the demand for the way that people want to live from a trends in America situation, that wasn't as popular back then. So there weren't as many restrictions and things because there didn't really need to be. It was staying in the family. So you're more likely to find that really smaller acreage in our 5 to 20 range with a house on it already. And so if you are trying to build a house or you're just trying to get your foot in the door, it may be worth examining a house that maybe you can knock down or a house that may need a project, because again, that 6 to 7, 8, 9 acre type of situation with no home on it is often going to come with some covenants, restrictions, that type of thing, which is what people generally don't want when they move out into, you know, their perfect country setting. So in the day, building is going to cost you some money. It's the flatter the land is, the easier it is to develop. That's going to carry a price. The closer it is to a city, that's going to carry a price. And when you are dealing in smaller acreage, that price per acre is going to be higher. It's going to carry a price because more people want it. And I just wanted to set all of that up because we'll get into actual land values in the next videos coming up. And I just wanted to set the stage for what it is like here. And let me know if you've got questions and I can help you out. But that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching. Hope this gives you a good jumping off point, and stay tuned for more. Thanks.